Hello, welcome to Win Some Lose More. My name is Dieter Loosemore, and I'm joined for the fourth year running by my brother Rick. We are here to do our top 50 games as of 2023. Previous year's lists are available. Do watch them if you want to see how they compare. I don't know about you, Rick, I've kept track of only the previous year. So for changes, I could go back and look at others if we're desperately interested to. But
I did. I initially put the last year's, and then I added in the further years because I think there's some interesting things to mention. But it'll only come as and when. Probably not even this list.
Sure. I may do it between videos then. I haven't for this 50, for this 10. We'll do 5 videos of 10 games each, starting at 50, ending at 1, all the way through this month. To round out the year, as we often do.
You want to talk about process?
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to do. Tell me yours.
Well, for the first time, I've used a website called Pub Meeple.
Okay. So we discussed this last year. Wouldn't it be interesting if we did this? I created my list all week. We've been planning to do it, so I was like, okay, I need to set this down. I usually keep a running list anyway. And then about 2 hours ago, decided, you know what, let's just shove it in Pub Meeple and see what happens. I've made 4 tweaks on what. So as Rick was saying, website, you upload all the games that you want on the list, and then it asks you, do you want this one or this one? And based on what you say, it gives you the list. I've made 4 tweaks, all of them in this 10.
I've made 1 tweak and it is in this 10.
Because the 40 to 7, so I did my top 80. And 40 to 70 is kind of, could be any day. So there are some wild swings and some that I can't tell you why they're there, but the premise I went with, and if yours is different, tell me. I took the website to be a real person going, I have these 2 games. Which one do you want to play right now? And said, actually, I want to play this one right now. That's my whole basis.
And I think you're right. But the thing I found really fascinating about it is the bigger the ranking numbers, so the lower down the list, the more swingy it was. But the closer you get to the top, actually, how I was like, oh my goodness, this is basically exactly the same as last year's list. That with some, well, we'll see when we get to it. But I was surprised at some of them going, what are you doing there? And some of them going like, how have you even ended up in exactly the right place?
I only have 3 games, I think, that are in the exact same position as last year.
Okay.
And I have 9 new games to the mix.
I have 9 new games, but I have more in the same place.
Okay. I agree with you. My top 20 is close to what I had anyway. The only ones that are different really from last year is because new ones have come in and shifted stuff around. A slight change at the top, which we will get to another time. We're on 50 to 41. Rick, what's your number 50 game of 2023?
Okay, so this is one of those that I thought, actually, do you know, I want to put in the last 3 years that we've done this, because this was 41 last year.
Okay.
But in 2020, when we did it, it was number 9.
Okay.
So it's gone 9, 25, 41, just sneaking into the 50, Raiders of the North Sea.
Wow.
Which is a very, I know, it's very sad. It's a good worker placement game. In fact, it's a very good worker placement game, and it has a wonderful niche of placing a worker and pulling a worker, and you build up a team of Vikings that go raiding, and I think it's really good, and I think it's really thematic, and I don't think it's leaving my collection anytime soon, but I also think it's kind of limited, and I'm happy with it, but not awed with it like I once was. But having said that, top 50, and lots of games are not Raiders of the North Sea.
If I hadn't have done tweaks, this would have been my number 50.
Wow.
It was like
people do its thing. It would have been
a 24, 25 or something last year, I think.
Whoa. Yeah.
And I played yours, really excited about it, found it, got it. Still excited to play it, but haven't.
Yeah,
So
that's it.
it's just one of those, it's drifted out of my mind. And I know it's better than my number 50.
I expect it to be, yeah.
Yeah, of course. My number 50 is Legacy of Dragonholt.
Okay, and never played it, not going to.
Barely a game. It's a choose your own adventure reading sort of D&D character sheet, story driven, cooperative, choice based game. If you followed me at all this year, I've been playing through most of my games solo. I haven't quite managed to do them all yet, but relatively early on in the year, I picked this up super cheap. It's supposed to be like 40 odd quid for some books, which, you know, writing takes a lot of work. I get that. I'm sure the money is worthwhile, but for something really I'm only going to play through once, maybe twice, just to see what different choices are, I managed to pick it up for much less than that and have just really enjoyed what they've created. And it was one I added back into the list because it was like 52, 53 or something. And it's just one of those, I felt it should be here because I've put so much time into it this year and had such a pleasant time of it that number 50, Legacy of Dragonholt, new to the list. There will be others that are new. But for now, 49.
Okay, my 49 was 21 3 years ago, 33 2 years ago, 73 last year.
Okay.
And it snuck back into the 49. Small World.
Oh wow. Okay. Okay.
And this is why I've tracked back, because it was at one point one of my absolute go-to games I play all the time.
Yeah.
Possibly overplayed it. We've talked in the past about some slight ethical issues around it, but they're very, very slight. But it's very much that pub meeple thing. I was like, how is this snuck back in here? When people show me, do you want this game or this game? And you go, I'd play that. I'd play that in a heartbeat. A Small World, if you don't know, is an area control game. You've got, it's the most brilliant mashup of races. You have an adjective and noun race. So you have the bivouacking Amazons, or you have the, I don't know, angry trolls. I can't remember what they're all now, but they just sort of, and they all have their special abilities, and everyone can play this game. Like, it's a war game that my mum can play. It's something special. And we've said this before, pretty games are easier to play. Well-produced games are easier to play. And Days of Wonder, who published this game, actually this year, without giving anything away, are going to have a good time on my list because they publish nice games.
Yes.
Small World.
2 years ago, I think, was in my top 10.
Yeah.
Last year dropped a bit. This year, 53. Just fell out. I didn't feel like tweaking it back in, but it's around that mark. It is.
Yeah.
It's just fun.
It's great.
My number 49, a little drier, but a 2-player head-to-head, which suits me just fine. There's a couple of those on this 10. This is Star Realms. It's dropped a bit. It was 32. Before that, it would have been higher again. I think started around my top 20 kind of area, but 32 last year, so down 17 points. Star Realms, even as the base game, just the head-to-head, do 50 before the other deck building from the row in the middle. It's just a simple, clean, yes, not very deep, yes, not wildly replayable, but I don't play it that often. So every time it comes out, it's like, oh yes, it's comfort. That's probably what it is. It's a comfort game for me. I can just sit down, knock a couple of games out. And I've got the Frontiers version, which has a couple more game modes that I don't necessarily touch, but they're nice to have options, and I can play it solo, therefore. So Star Realms, my 49.
So you reckon 40 to 70 is sort of the mishmash area for...
With what it came out as this time, yes.
Because Star Realms is my 80, and I would say is that next tier for me. So I think that probably holds up, yeah. All right, number 48, Days of Wonder are doing very well. This is a new one to my list, but not a new game. This is Memoir 44.
Oh, lovely.
Which I finally got to play with our dad over the summer. It's a war game, and I'm not a war gamer. There will be some war games on the list, and we'll see why.
Yep,
and
yep.
we'll have to qualify why I'm still not a war gamer as we go along. But I'm not a war gamer. I don't really enjoy the sort of like this one can move this forward, and there are other games I prefer because this one's a bit more war gamey than some of the other non-war games I've got on my list. But it's very clean. It's very clean. You have a hand of cards, and they can maneuver this lot, or this lot, and it's that restriction is really good. You might really want to move that lot, but you don't have the cards for it, so you have to do something else. And so that's why it moves it into that board game territory of here's an abstracted but real world scenario that my dad loves explaining to me and I ignore. But this is why they all came out. I don't care. I can play this card and it's going to do cool things. And that a bit like way down the list, things like Brass Birmingham, just sort of like you've got so many options. I don't know what to do. Here's just a hand of cards, and that limits your choice. That limitation is the juice that makes board games work. And it was solid. I don't know how long it's going to stay in the 50. It's not going to be something I'm going to rush to. But if I'm with my dad and he's like, "Can we play it?" I'll be like, "Yeah, it's great. It really is." And I can see why people have been playing it happily for 20 years. Memoir 44.
Nice. My number 48 is down 30 places. I said last year it was beginning to slip and that it would continue to do so. It's been thoroughly replaced by something we'll talk about later, another head-to-head card game, because it's my jam, Keyforge. I can't keep up with it. I can't. No. I didn't do the crowdfunding that happened for the new set, so it's done for me. I've got it. I'll keep it. I'll play it. I still genuinely really like it. Otherwise, it wouldn't be here. But it's going to settle around here.
Yeah. Well, 47 for me has been 69, 54, 61. So it's new to the 50. And it's mainly because I've been playing it with my kids, which is one of those things where suddenly do you know what? I like this one. Sushi Go Party.
Oh, nice.
Never not liked it. Always good for people who can't play games, pick and pass, very easy. But it's great just seeing the kids going, "Can we play Sushi Go Party?" And you go, "Yeah, fine. Doesn't offend me. There are lots worse games out there that we could play."
Yeah.
It's great. It's solid. I know you like it too.
Yeah. I think it's held on within the mix of things. We'll see if and as and where it pops up. Nice. I've got one in this 10 that has joined the list for the first time, but it's the only one that was pre-existing that has joined the list.
Right, yeah.
But not quite yet. 47, another fast faller that I said last year would be a fast faller. It was 31 last year. Again, previous top 10, down 16 places this year to 47, The Seventh Continent. Partly because other games do what it does for me. I'm a bit more diluted with the narrative stuff, Legacy of Dragonholt. I've already mentioned there's one coming up in 2 places that is a bit narrative. In my top 10, there's a narrative game like it. It doesn't astound me like it used to. It's still solid, and I'm still looking forward to Seventh Citadel when that's released. But it's just not one I pull out anymore. I think I even sold my last copy of it. I weirdly owned it like 3 times just from one Kickstarter. But there you go. Seventh Continent down to 47. Sad.
I nearly didn't put any legacy campaign-y story deck games on the list because it's just so hard to say, well, I did it. But now it's not like, because you did go back to the question you asked of like, is it this one or this one? Well, it's not that one really, probably.
Yeah.
Like we sort of effectively banned escape games because they're almost a different category of what we're talking about. I've kept them in. Well, I have.
Okay.
All right. Well, look forward to your escape games coming up. In the meantime, my 46 was 17 last year, but it was a new entry last year. It's one of those where you play it and you're like, this is amazing. It's so simple to play. There's so many rich things. The production's insane but incredible. I bought it, never played it, sold it. Inish.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. My number 46.
Yeah.
Is a game that I'm the only person that likes in the world. This is Imaginarium. Super weird. It hangs on forever.
Every year, and you're still the only fan. Katala loves it.
It's just weird. It's got his King Domino placement. You can go get the better thing, but you'll pick next time. And fixing broken dream machines. I don't know. It's super weird. The art direction is upsetting, but I have a lot of fun with it, and the production is much better than it should be. Imaginarium 46.
45, 18, 22, 37, slowly falling. Probably had no right to be as high as it was. In fact, definitely had no right to ever be as high as it was. Fields of Green is a simple drafting game with standard production that just feels nice to play. I never played it in anything more than 2-player, but we played a lot in 2-player. And it's actually the same mechanic as Sushi Go or Seven Wonders. If you played that, here's a hand of cards, pick one, pass it on, pick one, pass it on. In 2-player, they do an open draft, a table draft, and it works so well. And it's just one of these simple games where it's like, right, you want some pigs? You need some food. Oh, you want food? You got to have some water. Oh, you want water? It has to be close to this thing. And you build up a little map of a farm, and it sounds like every other game there's ever been, probably by Uwe Rosenberg, but it just works. And I'd really like it, but it's not in my collection anymore, and just is slowly drifting away. But I really like it. It feels green.
I'm honestly pleased it's still there. It was a random punt, but it just seemed to hit for you, which was nice. I'm pleased.
I like arboreal themes.
You do. This is about as not quite as far from arboreal as possible. I suppose sci-fi would be as far as possible. Grim fantasy.
No, that's pretty arboreal. There's lots of trees in.
Yeah, but the trees are trying to kill you. New to the list. Giant IP game with so much plastic it hurts. The Witcher Old World, or Witcher the Old World, wherever the goes, that one. You will hate it. And you will never play it. I quite enjoy it as a solo experience, but I managed to take it to the group, in fact, twice now. And we've played it as a 3-player game, once competitively, once cooperatively, which normally means they're garbage at both. And we genuinely enjoyed both of them.
Wow.
I think co-op is slightly better, and it only removes one mechanic. Fighting each other. That's all it removes, because there's still monsters on the board to fight. I don't care about miniatures, but these miniatures are cool. Detailed, let's say. If you don't like miniatures, you won't think they're cool, but they are detailed. You can appreciate them. And what it has that I alluded to earlier is this almost narrative deck that if you go to a certain place, one of the choices you can do is engage with some of the story to make a moral dilemma choice. You come across a werewolf and it's being protected by their human family, and do you kill the werewolf because it's a monster, but do you leave it alone because it's trying to control itself, but you don't know what the outcome of those choices are until you've made your choice, and then somebody reads out and you get a consequence, good, bad, middling, whatever it might be, depending on your choice, which just gives you usually some form of bonus or other, which helps you go down a certain path or other strategically. So it does have strategic elements, but it's just nice to go, oh, that's a really difficult one. I know it doesn't matter. It's a game. But feeling engaged in a different way than I've come across. I've wanted to try things like the King's Dilemma and Queen's Dilemma that ask you those kinds of questions, but they're, campaign games, and I don't have the time to be doing that. And so an IP that I enjoy the video games of, I enjoy the TV show of, that I can just pull up, and I run D&D games, and I can steal the miniatures for other stuff. So why not? Witcher the Old World 45.
Well, my 44, you can't steal the miniatures for, because it's a deck of cards. They're very useful deck of cards for the game, and it's San Juan.
Oh, okay.
Inexplicably fell off my radar a couple of years ago, but was as high as 22 in the past.
Yeah.
This is the card game of Puerto Rico, and is almost like the ugly cousin, which is damning with faint praise, of Race for the Galaxy. And it's a follow mechanic game, and it's I don't know, how would you describe it? You're trying to make goods and ship goods and sell goods, and it's pretty standard fare, but it's a pretty just a pretty neat system. It's never been expanded. It's never had any sort of like, oh, and now add in, this crazy thing or that. It's self-contained little, not overly complex card game.
Yeah.
That just works really well. And when again, Pub Meeple helped me out, and I was like 44. I was like, of course it's in my top 50. It's exceptional. How did it fall off my radar in the past? And I think it's because it's kind of beige, and
literally,
but in the most literal sense, it is very beige. And we said prettier games are easy to play.
Yeah.
This ain't a pretty one, but it's a very good one.
My number 44 is the other game that I seem to be the champion of. Solo only game, Maquis. Was 30 last year, down 14 places. World War II, French Resistance, the Maquis. There's a small expansion that they did. Sidereal Games are really good at small but satisfying solo games. And this one's a worker placement, which you would think wouldn't really work as a solo, but there's almost like an AI deck that the police are trying to catch you because you're the resistance, you're underground, whilst you're trying to complete. It's just collect goods, turn them in job, but it's themed well, and the art direction is really cool and satisfying, and it's quick. And with the small expansion, there's a lot of variability, so you can just try lots of things out, give it a good go. 44 still on the list, Maquis.
Well, 43 is my switcheroo from the from the Pub Meeple, and the reason for that is that it's so similar to another game, and I prefer this one, and the other game was in 43, and this one was down in 52 or something like that, and I was like, well, that's just straight up wrong. This is Dune Imperium.
Oh, okay, cool.
The Lost Ruins of Arnak is a very similar game, and they came out at very similar times because they blend sort of worker placement and deck building in a way that works, and not in a way that doesn't work. And I've seen other games, I'm looking at you, Everdell, that try and mix card play and worker placement, and can burn in hell for all I care. They are awful, but these two both do it quite well. If anyone ever hell is never getting in my collection again. Anyway, doesn't matter. I'm getting off track.
It's so many people's favorite game.
I know, they're weird. Dune Imperium and Lost Ruins of Arnak do this well. Dune Imperium I played sometime later, even though they came out at a similar time, and it has this extra mechanic of like a combat zone. It's based on Dune, the book, and then the film. They've done well to get a lot of the art and the art style. The board itself is a little bit bland, but they live in the IP pretty well. But it has this combat zone as well that initially I was like, I feel like that's going to be a distraction. I think that's going to, Arnak's so pure and plays so well that this is just going to be a bit clunky. And actually, it's the thing that edges it above for me. It just goes, this suddenly stops being, hey, I'm doing this and you're doing that, you're doing that. But we're not really gonna. You took my place. I'll do something else. Suddenly, it becomes a bit of a fight as well, and it's one of those fight games that's not a war, but it's an arms race,
sure.
and which is really, it just lends itself to board gaming really well. And so that's why I did the switcheroo. But 43 down 16 places. But when you've got 9 new games, not a terrible outcome. Dune Imperium.
I've played half of a solo game to try and teach myself the rules, and that combat thing was the most confusing initially. But by the time I packed it away, I think I know what you mean from not having played it. You go, I was expecting a Seven Wonders, we compare, I win something, you don't.
Yes.
Malarkey. But actually, because there's always 3 prizes, you go, actually, I want the thing that's in second place. How do I make myself second? How many do I contribute? Yes, I build the garrison to freak you out, but actually I'm only going to commit 2. Or whatever, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to looking at that more. It does seem interesting. Okay, so my 43, I didn't know we had a rule. So it is the entire Exit series.
Fine.
Because I
have a rule.
Yeah, I've played about 5 of them now, and they hover around here. It was 40 last time, so with new games in, it's about the same. Some are much better than others. Some are just infuriating, but we tend to just keep a couple in the cupboard and we'll just pull them out. Or we went on holiday over the end of the summer kind of time, just took one of them with us and could just do a couple of the puzzles. We'll just finish it off. It doesn't take too long between the 2 of us, 45 minutes, an hour or so. Just some interesting puzzles. So for me, again, I get that sense of discovery, why I like new games, because I get hooked on I need to find out this, about this. It gives me that while still feeling familiar and comfortable because I've played the system before.
Yes.
And you can get them for like 6-7 quid if you look in the right places. For an evening's entertainment, why not? It works for me. Didn't know it was a rule. Down 3 places to 43 Exit.
My number 42 was 26 last year, 11 the year before that, 8 the year before that. Fleetingly was number 1.
Root.
Is Root.
Out of my 50.
Yeah. Do you know what? I'm increasingly finding that there is a category of games that is more interesting than fun. And I fear that Root is kind of in that category. Because I first played it and went, oh my goodness, this is everything I love about board games.
Yeah.
Another war game. I know I'm not a war gamer, but the simplicity and elegance of its production is fabulous. I'm not a minis person, but I am a wood person, and cardboard and nice art and interesting art, but without being weird. It's so good looking. And you have a war game where 4 people are playing 4 different sets of rules and they play each other. And it's not like its sister Vast, which is like they're entirely different. They have a similar scoring mechanism. They're trying to go for the same thing, but in different ways. And it's so interesting. It really is interesting. And you want to play it. And I played it the other day for the first time in probably years. And I just went, oh, I don't really enjoy this. Once I'm past I don't know, it shouldn't even be in my 50 now. Yeah, it should. It's a great game. It's a great game.
Yes.
But increasingly I'm going, I don't know that it's loads of fun in the way that Small World is loads of fun.
Sure.
So it's fabulous. I feel like I'm saying the opposite things, but I guess you feel the same.
Yeah, absolutely. I owned it, never played it whilst I owned it. I own the digital copy. I will look at it every now and then and have to relearn it every time because there are 4 rule sets to learn. I know they're all individually simple, but it's a commitment to even get past the opening screen or to pull out the box in the physical case. And
I think if you had a group of people played it again and again and again and again, this would be exceptional.
Yes, I agree.
But I am in a situation where I teach more than I just play regularly.
Yeah.
and it's a hard teach.
Yeah.
It's a hard teach.
Yeah. My 42 is the other direction entirely, in the sense of your last one has dropped out of my 50. This is brand new to the 50, but not brand new to my list. This has come up from number 93, up 51 places, and is the reason I pulled a face and cut you short. This is Inish.
Wow.
I've played it a couple of times in the last year. People have brought it to the group, and this is one of those that straddles that line you mentioned for me, but does both. I find it both fascinating and fun.
Yes.
Because it's not as complex as Root. It's not as interesting, but it is more fun. So it's down here because it's not like it's something I want to pull out all the time, because it's more interesting than it is fun. But it's more fun than some of the others that fit that criteria. Rambling. It's a pick and pass, drafting cards to play, to do actions, to complete one of 3 very strange endgame triggers. The art style is
bizarre,
nightmare fuel, but beautiful.
Yes.
A unique looking game. Area control dudes on a map, not my thing, but just it all just kind of works, and it's just kind of fun, and you go,
yeah,
that was okay. I see what you did there. Okay, I'm happy to not touch this for a year, but in a year I want to try that again. Finish 42.
Yeah, it's great. It is great. All right, 41. Like I say, I nearly disallowed for myself legacy games, because I look at this and I'm like, I feel like it's almost like it's clogging, like a legacy game. If you kept it once you're finished, it's clogging up shelf space. It almost feels like it's clogging up Excel space on my list, right? Pandemic Legacy Season 2. Last year wasn't in the 50. Previous to that has been higher than this. I'm currently replaying Pandemic Legacy Season 1 with some friends who've never played it before, and I said, yeah, I'd be happy to play it again. I can keep the secrets to myself. And as I play it, I go, oh, there's that thing in 2 that I really like. And it's that story bit that, it kicked me in the stomach, and I've never got over it. It is really good, but I'm increasingly thinking that next year I just won't have them there because they're just taking up space. And I could talk about games that I could play tomorrow and not games that I played in the past and I'm not going to play again. They're a good pair. I like Season 1 better, as we'll see sometime later. But Season 2, like Pandemic Legacy.
Now, we've discussed over the years about combining entries, separating out entries, and I know I ask you this every year. You're of the mind that this is sufficiently distinct from Season 1 that it qualifies as its own thing, and Pandemic Legacy is not a single entry.
Yes, largely because I think Pandemic Legacy Season 1 is significantly better.
Okay.
And I would be loath to sort of like average out their position, because that would be a disservice to the first one. I have combined all the other board game pandemics.
Yeah.
Separated out, and this is not to say whether they're in the 50 or not, separated out like the dice game of Pandemic or the hot zone of Pandemic. So the different versions, but Pandemic, Iberia, Fall of Rome, they're all in one box for me this year. But the legacies are distinctly different, yes.
So to round out the 10, my number 41, down 15 places from 26, partly because I don't own it, partly because it even has come up as an option at games night, and it's just not one I've gone for because new and interesting things have arrived and I want to do those things instead. So it's just a matter of it filtering down. But ugly Castles of Burgundy. It's just a very good game that I would happily own again with more space and money. I just don't need it. But it's great using dice, roll them to tell you numbers, which allow you to use them for different actions that suit that number in order to build out your map to trigger lots of different things. There's ongoing bonuses, there's endgame bonuses, there's one-time things, there's the build sets to do this thing. Like every good Euro idea kind of streamlined very well. It just really works for me. It's just why would I pay £200 for the Awakened Realms one just for a decent looking game when I can spend 20 quid on the Alea one and have a good time and just close my eyes for some of it. Castles Burgundy 41. We will be back with 40 to 31 next time. Another new game in that slot.
Two more,
but only one. Cool. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Dieter. This is my brother Rick. This is our top 50. I'm not going to call this too loose. I hate it. It's done. We had 3 years of it. No more. No more. We hope you join us next time. In the meantime, do find me on social media. Just search Win Some Lose More on all the usual platforms. You'll find me. We'll be back soon. We hope you join us for it. Thank you very much. I've been Dieter. He's been Rick for Win Some Lose More. Goodbye.